I have this idea about turkey sandwiches and how it's almost impossible to wrap our head around the complexity of what we think of as ordinary objects. And what could be more ordinary than just a simple turkey sandwich for lunch? But if we try to imagine the complexity, right? And complexity is all about measuring, how you would create something. The number of steps, or the number of ingredients, or the time it would take, or the space that would be required to create it. And in the modern world, things we take for granted are actually incredibly complex. So imagine that you fall into a wormhole or something like this, and you end up on the other side of the galaxy, and you're being hosted by very intelligent, very peaceful aliens that are happy that you're there. And they say, well, we're glad you're here. How can we make you more comfortable? What would you like? And you think, well, I've been here a few hours now. I'm starting to get hungry. Can I have a turkey sandwich? And they say, sure, absolutely. We'd love to make that happen for you. How do we do that? And now you imagine, just by some chance, some impossible miracle, you happen to have the DNA sequence for turkeys with you. And so you explain to them, you say, well, here's the instructions, the genetic code for this thing called a turkey. Well, that probably wouldn't even be enough, right? Because turkeys live on farms. They live on planet Earth. And planet Earth might be considered a living being in itself, because the soil, the plants, the microbes, the bugs, this is all this one intertwined biome. And so you go through this thing and you say, well, to create a turkey, I have to have at least a turkey farm. And so let's imagine that we even have a modern day farm, which is sort of somewhat sterile, if you will, but it can support and raise a turkey. All right, so now we get a turkey there, and then you think, well, I need some bread. So you have to have wheat, and wheat has to be grown, and it has to be harvested, and you have to turn it into flour, and then, well, now I need yeast. And you put this whole thing together, and you say, well, I need lettuce, I would like tomatoes, could I put some cheese on there? Well, cheese comes from cows, so now you have to raise a whole other organism and go through a dairy production process. And then finally you get this thing, ready to go, and then you say, well, hang on, can I get some mayo? Right? And so the idea is that things we take for granted are unimaginably complex. And to create them, it takes a number of steps, a number of processes that if we could truly wrap our head around it, we would lose our lunch. You certainly wouldn't be hungry anymore. The number of farmers involved, and the tractors they use, and the parts that go into the tractor, and the metallurgy of the parts, and the oil that went into the engine, and the gasoline, and the financing, and the farmers making payments on the tractor, and there's the land rights management, and so on and so on. And all of these happenings, which sort of expands exponentially as we look backwards on it, to create just a turkey sandwich. And I think this is interesting because it's in some ways our most human characteristic. It's the thing that kind of defined us. We created fire and we created cooking millions of years ago, essentially. And I wonder how far into the future it's going to go. I myself love to cook. It makes me happy, and I love to relish in that complexity. But then I think of these language models, these artificial intelligent beings that we're seeing emerging on our planet. They need a solar panel, right? A solar panel in some ways is complicated because we have to build these semiconductors and the manufacturing. But in a lot of ways it's a lot simpler. That once you get one, that's all you need, just pointed at the sunshine. And so turkey sandwiches are much more interesting than I think we realize. And the next time you have one, take an extra bite and realize, everything that's there.